A friend of my wife proposed she and I start an affair. I rejected her and now, she's flipping out on us. 2 years ago, my wife's friend, who at the time was a co-worker of mine, approached me casually one day and noted that as both of our spouses were leaving town for the week that I should come over tonight. It'll be just the two us alone, we can open a bottle of wine and just see what happens. I rejected her, but didn't immediately tell my wife as a similar thing had happened while scouting a location for a commercial shoot. I wanted to be sure I wasn't putting out any I would love to cheat on my wife vibes before I potentially put anyone's friendships at risk. A few months pass and I tell my wife, who just thinks it's odd, but the longer she thinks on it, the madder she gets. The friend has just been playing it off, assuming I said nothing, but my wife has continued being a friend to her. She's promoted her daughter's business, helped this woman's family member through a tough diagnosis, but lately my wife has decided enough is enough. This week the friend announced her daughter's wedding and texted my wife to invite us, and my wife sent a thinly worded message saying essentially, "No, here's what you tried to do, we are going to be discreet and not tell anyone, please lose our numbers." The woman spent 3 days texting my wife telling her she's crazy, I'm a liar, and we're trying to slander her. It's bleeding over into social media accusations against my wife being a bad friend. I'm dealing with a lot of anger. I seldom spoke to this woman before or after the incident, but she's decided because she wanted to duck and I said no, she's going to rattle our cages. People are the worst. Story 2, my ex was apparently cheated on and I'm secretly happy. We were together for 2 years. I truly love this woman with all my heart. I would have gone anywhere, done anything and given up anything for her. She knew it, and we talked about a future together. But in the end she decided to do things on her own. It didn't really make sense to me at the time, as she literally flipped overnight. There were no signs. She just decided to up and leave. I hurt, but we remained cordial. A few months later I learned she was in a self-described casual relationship because, as she said, she got horny. I never truly believed it was as casual as she said and always had a feeling that she wasn't being totally upfront with me. Who leaves a later for a casual one, especially when you said you wanted to be married and have kids? Anyway, we met up the day prior to Thanksgiving, and I ended up breaking down in front of her. I told her how much I loved her, how much she meant to me, how I would do anything to fix whatever I did wrong, etc. You know, the whole bargaining thing. She was pretty emotionless throughout the whole thing. Just gave me some platitudes and something about how she doesn't know what the future holds. A huge argument ensued a few days later. Anyway, to cut a long story short, about 2 days ago, I found out that her not-so-casual BF is very likely cheating on her end. I'm kinda happy about the prospect. I know that's terrible, and I wish I wasn't, but I am. A large part of me is all you get what you ducking deserve. A small part of me feels bad, but it's a very small part. I know that's just pain and hurt talking, but at this point it is what it is. I got the best night's sleep last night that I've had in literal months. I'm not normally this petty person who takes delight in other people's misery, and I really don't want to be that type of person, but I'm not going to pretend that this doesn't bring me some momentary satisfaction. Story 3, my girlfriend's best friend is an absolute garbage can. I, 23 male, have been with my girlfriend, Olivia, 21 female, for 2 years. Her best friend, Jess, 24 female, is horrendous. Jess and my GF have been friends for a long time, at least a few years before we met, and she has issues. They have that type of friendship where half the time they hate each other and the other half they are inseparable. I never understood the dynamic. I'm pretty straightforward with my friends, but I guess it works for them. It's important to note that both of them are bisexual, so am I. That's not the issue here, and before me, they hooked up. It was nothing serious on my girlfriend's end, but Jess developed a pretty intense crush on Olivia. She made her love song playlists, wrote her letters, all the typical things. From my understanding, the fling didn't last very long at all, but Jess got pissed every time my girlfriend would show interest in someone else. Apparently that was done and over with for a while before I was in the picture. I also want to point out that I had no idea that happened until about 6 months into the relationship. It made me uncomfortable then, and it still kinda upsets me to this day. They spend a lot of time together, often staying the night together without me. It's relatively normal except for the fact that they have slept together. I don't know of many people who would be comfortable with their partner staying the night with someone they used to sleep with. It's not ideal. But my girlfriend has trauma from her ex and am cutting her off from all of her friends because he was controlling, and the last thing I want to do is seem abusive. And Jess is literally her only friend. So I feel like I have to be okay with it. And I have been for 2 years. Here's where the trouble comes. Jess has never liked me. From day one. My girlfriend and I were in a sticky situation early in our relationship because I still lived with my ex and everything was messy because of that. Jess has always thought of me as a loser and thought I was going to cheat on Olivia with my ex. She didn't like the idea of us being together because of that situation, and I suspect she also still had and has a crush on Olivia. I also do not like Jess because of how she treated me in the beginning and because of their past. Jess has used her crush on Olivia against me before, saying things like I've slept with her too, which is just extremely disrespectful in my opinion. Jess is altogether not a good person. She has had relationships with about 4 or 5 separate people since I've known her, and she has cheated on every single one of them. She has borrowed over $3,000 from Olivia and hasn't even paid half it back in 2 years. She's also borrowed money from me and hasn't paid that back either. And the most ducked up thing of all, my girlfriend has had 2 miscarriages, which bring her great grief, and has ashes in a tiny urn and ultrasound pictures from the pregnancies. When all of us lived together for about 3 months, my girlfriend expressed that she wanted to put her babies and the pictures out on display because she is tired of always having them in a box. Jess berated Olivia for this request, telling her that she didn't want to be surrounded by death, and she told Jess that she didn't want that in her house. We paid 3/4 of rent and bought all food house necessities, and that she shouldn't force everyone to look at that. Jess moved out shortly after that conversation. Remarkably, they are still friends. They weren't for a while after that, but have since made amends. It's entirely my girlfriend's business if she wants someone like that in her life, but that situation continues to make it difficult for me to like her. I have to admit that I can be pretty rude to Jess. The entire situation has created a lot of resentment between her and I, and we really do not like each other at all. I call her out on her BS and she will do the same, especially if Olivia and I are fighting. She will make sure to tell me I'm the asshole. Even though I personally would like to keep our relationship issues private. All in all, the hatred between Jess and I is mutual, and it puts a lot of stress on Olivia. She's told both of us multiple times that it feels like she has to choose and like she's in the middle. But even though this is a joint effort, it feels like I always get blamed for any blowouts that Jess and I have. I'll admit that I get mean, oftentimes being sarcastic or implying that she's stupid, but in my head, I never cross any hard lines, never commenting on weight, appearance or any known insecurities. But Jess will straight up be the most heartless bitch to me. Like when I texted the group chat I'm halfway through my day today and Jess replied nobody cares, it's offhand petty poop like that from her every day. She has implied and stated that she is more important to Olive than I am. Which I understand to an extent, hoes before brothers I guess, but Olivia and I are getting to the point in our relationship where it is super serious. We live together, I have an engagement ring, and we're talking about starting a family. Because of this, I would like to be more of a priority. I feel as if I earned it. But Jess is always put first and I am on the back burner. Last week I ran out of gas in a parking lot because I asked Olivia for money my card wasn't going through, and she said she couldn't because Jess didn't want to stop at a bank. She has done that sort of thing on multiple occasions. We had made a boundary that if we were on a date or having a serious conversation, she can't answer her phone if it's Jess. They talk for hours, and last night we were arguing, Jess called, and she answered. Even though I asked her not to. That made me cry. Feeling absolutely worthless and like she is dating Jess and not me. Anytime I say anything to Jess I will get yelled at and berated by both of them for being an asshole. I don't even know at this point. I'm really struggling with all of this, and it is affecting my relationship with Olivia. It makes me so angry at her that I can't be put first even 1% of the time. I realize some of these feelings could be jealous or unhealthy, but it hurts and I just needed to get it off my chest. Story 4. I found out my girlfriend isn't attracted to me and I don't know if I can continue the relationship. I 22M have been dating my girlfriend Lisa 20F for about 6 months now. She is one of the sweetest girls I have ever met, and even though we haven't been together too long I have really strong feelings for her. I've always seen her as this shy and sweet girl who was always so sweet to everyone, and I truly thought she felt the same feelings for me as I did her. However, recently I learned something that has flipped our whole relationship upside down. I will be the first to admit that I am a very touchy person, and perhaps my advances can come across as strong sometimes. Whenever I'm with Lisa I always wanted to be touching her in some way. Usually, this meant holding on to her and smothering her with kisses. I'll also note here that she is significantly taller than I am, so I would often resort to neck kisses as her neck was easier to reach and I knew she was ticklish there. Lisa never once expressed an issue with these touches. In fact, she seemed to encourage them most of the time. The only real issue we faced in our relationship is that she seemed very hesitant to let things go further than that. I have tried engaging in more intimate activities multiple times, but she will always shut me down, saying that it isn't the right time. It always hurt me a bit when she said this, but I respect her boundaries, so I never pried any further. Side note here, I know from her telling me that she had a friend with benefits relationship before me and has posted many spicy online pictures, so I know the issue isn't her being shy. For whatever reason though, she never wanted to go any further than cuddling with me. There were even days when she would refuse to let me kiss her. She would simply turn her head away when I tried, or pull away super quickly and try to distract me. Again, I tried not to think about it too much, but this avoidance has gotten significantly worse over the past week. I was lucky for Lisa to even let me hold her hand, and now I knew that something was wrong. I finally confronted Lisa last night after talking to a mutual friend about it. At first, she was defensive and dismissive, saying that everything was fine and that I was just overthinking. I kept prying though, and finally, she confessed that physically she was not attracted to me and hated the thought of me touching her. She said she tried to fake it at first, but I just got pushier and she couldn't take it, that any time I kissed or touched her it felt gross and not right. Apparently it felt like my touch was foreign, and even the thought of being close to me made her skin crawl at times, but she didn't want to hurt my feelings, so she pretended it was nothing and pushed me away when I tried to advance things. I was shocked, and I asked her why she was even with me if she hated me being around her so much. She said it was because she still loved me as a person. She cares about me on an emotional level, but something about being with me physically grosses her out, and she couldn't even force herself to fake it. She then apologized and tried to assure me that it wasn't anything I did and that she hoped with time she would get over it. I just told her I needed time to think and left it at that. It's been 2 days since then and I am still devastated by what she said, and I'm questioning what I'm supposed to do now. Lisa has been texting me nonstop saying she's sorry and she wants to fix the relationship, but I don't know if I can. I love her and care about her so much, but how am I supposed to be with someone who basically admitted to finding me physically repulsing? It hurts, even more, knowing that we were together 6 months, and not once during that whole time did she say anything about this. She only confessed when I confronted her, which tells me either her feelings just changed or she's been hiding this and lying for a long time. I really don't know what to do. I know I need to face Lisa eventually, but I'm so hurt and confused. It hurts me to imagine living without her, but at the same time, I don't know if my self-esteem can handle being in a relationship with her any longer. I'm really at a loss here. Update: I found out my girlfriend isn't attracted to me and I don't know if I can continue the relationship. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who replied and gave me advice. I wanted to update everyone on what happened and clarify a few new findings here since there were too many comments to reply to. I really wish this had ended in a better outcome, but sadly it didn't. Also, just a side note, please do not hate on Lisa for what happened. A lot of people in the original post were calling her toxic, but she doesn't deserve that. I still love her to death despite everything, and I know that what happened isn't really her fault, so please be nice to her. To clarify a few common comments, no, she wasn't cheating, she wasn't using me for money or anything, and she isn't asexual to my knowledge. So Lisa stopped texting me for a few days after our original argument, I assumed to give me space. I spent that time thinking over everything and also talking to a few friends to advice. Most people obviously told me to cut the losses and end our relationship, but part of me was still holding on to the hope we could fix things. Since a lot of people asked, yes, she is my first proper girlfriend since high school and I felt lucky to have her, so I really did not want to leave her. I honestly considered the idea of counseling for a bit in hopes I could get her to confess what was really going on in her mind and why she said what she did. She texted me last night saying that we needed to talk and I hesitantly agreed. I still didn't know what I wanted from our relationship, but I was hoping that talking to her would at least give me closure or answers. So I met up with her a few hours ago now and immediately everything felt off. She wasn't the same cute shy girl I knew. She was cold, distant, and refused to even look at me properly for the first few minutes. Something about her was just off and it made me question everything I knew about her. She didn't even greet me with a hi or how have you been? She just jumped straight into the matter by saying she knew I was talking to people about her and our relationship. I, taken aback a bit, didn't answer at first, and she continued by saying if I had been willing to talk and listen to her properly, this all could have been avoided. I was a bit pissed off by this, so I asked her to explain herself. Why did she say such hurtful things, and why did she bother staying with me if she was that repulsed by me? Instead of blowing off the conversation or trying to turn it around like I thought, the first thing she said was I completely misunderstood what she was saying. While she did confess that her words may have been harsher than she intended, all she ever said was me touching her the way I did made her uncomfortable, and that she was starting to hate being around me physically because all I wanted to do was touch her. She apologized for the way she worded it, but clarified that never once had she meant that I was repulsive or not attractive. She meant she was repulsed by the feeling of being touched and that it felt wrong to her, not by me as a person, which I still don't think I understand. I asked her why she didn't say anything sooner and why she let the relationship drag on. That's when started to finally click for me. The first words out of Lisa's mouth were that I was the only guy she had ever been with, so she wasn't used to the kind of intimacy I was wanting. I asked her, what about her friend with benefits, and she clarified that I wasn't the only person she had been with, but that all of her previous partners had been female. Honestly, this shocked me because never once had she ever mentioned or shown signs of being into women that I noticed, and I never asked about past partners much, so I guess I always assumed she was straight. Lisa then went on to explain that she wasn't too sure about her sexuality, but she decided to give it a shot with me because she felt a connection. She had been fine with me and the physical affection at first when it was just hand holding and soft hugs, but that after a while I became more intimate and pushy, and that's when she got uncomfortable. She had never been with a man intimately, so when I started constantly trying to kiss her or get handsy trying to initiate something, she would panic because she wasn't ready. Eventually this transferred over into other touches, and she became so on edge that she didn't even want me near her. I was absolutely shocked hearing all of this and asked her why she didn't tell me about any of this prior, and she admitted she had. She never exclusively told me about her dating life because I never seemed interested, but she hadn't kept it a secret either. Apparently I had even met her past friend with benefits but hadn't connected the dots at the time. She also brought up multiple times where she had gently pulled me off of her or tried to tell me she didn't like something, but I would try again after a few minutes. Looking back, I can remember being pulled away, but I can't honestly recall a time she seriously told me to stop because I would have had she spoken up. So either my memory is just that bad, or I honestly did not understand what she was saying because I only remember her being playful. I told her I was sorry if I pushed her to that point, but I would have appreciated if she actually sat down and talked to me about it instead of letting everything build up. I also still felt like she was hiding a huge chunk of her life from me by not being open about her past, which really hurts and would have prevented a lot of misunderstanding had I known. She argued back that I never showed interest in her past, so she didn't get a chance to tell me, and I shouldn't have just jumped to conclusions about who she was and what she wanted. The conversation ended quickly after when she gave up and said we clearly weren't meant for each other. She wished me the best in life, then left without another word. When I got home, I immediately noticed she blocked and removed me from most of her social media. I didn't bother trying to text her, knowing she probably blocked me there also. I've been thinking about what happened ever since I got home, and I really don't know what to think. Part of me is relieved that I finally got my answer. Another part is frustrated by how it ended, as I feel Lisa still hasn't been fully honest with me, and I'm also just hurt. I really did care a lot about her, so for her to end the relationship the way she did is killing me inside. I also can't help but feel guilty, wondering if it really was my actions that drove her away and killed our relationship, or if that was just an excuse to make herself feel better. I'm heartbroken and will probably be thinking about this for a while, but I'm too scared to talk to my friends since I know word will get back to Lisa. Definitely not the ending for us that I wanted, but I guess there's no going back now. Also, sorry if my writing seems a bit rushed. I'm still very emotional over what happened, but I knew quite a few were messaging me asking for an update, so here you go. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1. Dude, she's gaslighting you hard. Every time you bring something up she could have done differently, she blames you for it. I know it sucks, but it'd move on and find someone who actually cares about you and your needs. Redditor 2. This girl is just so wrong, man. First, by making you feel repulsive, and second, for not being upfront and honest with you. I feel like she might be a lesbian, but just very deeply hated that about herself, so used you to feel normal. As a bi person myself, I'm very familiar with the type of confusion she'd be feeling, but that's still no excuse for treating you that way. Best just move on even though it hurts. Redditor 3. She sounds like she has every excuse for when you expressed concerns. She is bad at communicating, and it sounded like she expected you to be a mind reader. You should read into the term gaslighting. I understand you love her and all, but by reading this and your last post, she's not been very open and honest and blames you rather than taking any accountability. Redditor 4. Bro, gonna be honest, seems like she gaslighted you. Like everything you brought up, she immediately shifted to blaming you for it. So even though you are hurting right now because it was your first proper GF, you need to find someone who actually like you for you and not someone who can't even take blame for what they were doing wrong as well. Wish you the best, bro.